Billionaire Richard Morgan stood frozen, his briefcase crashing to the marble floor. What he saw was impossible. His 18-month-old twin sons, Jay and Tommy, who had never taken a single step or spoken a single word, were walking across the carpet. "Mama, Mama," Jay said, toddling towards someone. "Up, up," Tommy echoed. But it wasn't Richard they were calling to. It was Rose Bennett, the nanny he had hired just 3 months ago. She sat on the floor, her arms open wide as the twins, on wobbly legs, said their first words to her. Richard felt his knees go weak. Doctors had said they were delayed, possibly forever damaged by the trauma of their mother's death during childbirth. Specialists had failed, but now this. "How?" Richard whispered. Rose looked up, her joy turning to fear, as if she'd been caught doing something wrong instead of performing a miracle. Just 6 months earlier, Richard's $42 million mansion was the saddest place on earth. His wife, Sophia, had died giving birth to the twins. Drowning in grief, Richard couldn't bear to hold his sons. He saw his loss in their eyes. So he did what he knew best. He worked. He provided them with everything money could buy, except the one thing they needed most: a father. Nannies came and went, unable to break through the silence of 2 babies who never cried, never laughed, and never made a sound. Then Rose Bennett arrived. She wasn't like the others. In her interview, she looked at the 5 thick binders of rigid schedules Richard had prepared. Then she looked at him. "Mr. Morgan," she said, gently, "when was the last time you held your sons?" The question stunned him. "Children aren't machines that run on schedules," she continued quietly. "They're little people who need connection. And that's what your boys have been missing." Richard hired her on the spot. On her first day, Rose walked into the perfect, silent nursery, closed the binders of rules, and sat on the floor with the twins. "Hi, Jay. Hi, Tommy," she said softly. "I'm not going to follow schedules. I'm just going to love you." For weeks she did just that. She talked to them, sang to them, held them, even when they didn't respond. Slowly, miraculously, something began to change. Flicker of eye contact, a hand that didn't pull away. Then, one day, a real smile when she blew bubbles. The twins were learning to feel safe, but they still weren't walking or talking. 2 months into her job, Rose knew they needed more than the 4 walls of the mansion. She called Richard at his office. "Mr. Morgan, the twins need fresh air?" "I want to take them to the park." "Absolutely not," Richard said immediately. "It's not safe. There are too many variables I can't control." "They are not museum pieces," Rose argued. "They're children who need to experience life. The answer is no. That's final." Rose hung up the phone, her heart pounding. She looked at the twins, sitting silently on their playmat. Then she made a decision that could cost her everything. She dressed them in warm clothes, put them in their stroller, and walked right out the front door. Rose risked her job for what she believed was right. Do you believe that sometimes breaking the rules is necessary for a breakthrough? Let us know with a yes in the comments. At the park, Rose took off the twins' shoes and socks, letting their bare feet touch the grass. Tommy's eyes went wide. Then, for the first time in his life, he laughed. A real deep belly laugh. A little girl toddled over and offered Tommy a dandelion just out of his reach. He looked at the flower, then at his legs. Rose held her breath. He pushed himself to his knees, his whole body shaking with effort. And then impossibly, Tommy stood up. He took one wobbly step, then another. Jay, seeing his brother, pushed himself up too. Within minutes, both boys were standing. They had been walking for less than 5 minutes when Rose heard a voice that made her blood run cold. What the hell is going on here? Richard stood at the edge of the blanket, his face a mask of anger and panic. You disobeyed my orders. You put them in danger. He stopped as he saw Tommy, standing on his own 2 feet, gripping Rose's leg. He's standing. Yes, Rose said quietly. Both of them. They took their first steps 10 minutes ago. Richard sank to the blanket, his legs giving out. He watched his sons, truly watched them for the first time. Jay took 2 wobbly steps toward a butterfly and fell. But instead of crying, he laughed. Oh, I thought. Richard's voice cracked. I thought keeping them safe meant keeping them inside, controlling everything. You were afraid of losing them, Rose said gently, sitting beside him. But you forgot they needed to live. I've missed everything, he whispered, his face in his hands. It's not too late, Rose said, placing a hand on his shoulder. They still need their father. Let me show you how. That evening, everything changed. Richard rearranged his schedule. He learned to play, to read stories, to simply be present. He and Rose became a team, co-parenting the twins. The silent mansion was finally filled with laughter. 3 months after that day in the park, Richard was building a block tower with Jay. He knocked it down, and the blocks scattered. Jay squealed with delight, clapped his hands, and then, clear as a bell, said his second word. "Da-da." Richard froze. "Da-da, da-da," Jay repeated, pointing at him with a huge smile. "Da." Not to be left out, toddled over. "Da-da," he echoed. Richard pulled both boys into his arms, sobbing with pure joy. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, I'm your dada. I'm finally here." Rose watched from across the room, her heart full. This was what success looked like. A father who had found his way back to his children, and a family that had learned to heal. If this story touched your heart, support us with a like and share it to spread this message of love and healing. And to continue hearing stories that inspire the soul, subscribe and join our family.